Hi everybody, it's Richard here again and welcome to another video. Now this is my continuation of my top 10, 15, 20, 30 albums from 1965 to 1989, and we're getting through these rightly because after today there's only 8 more years to do. Today is going to be 1970. It won the poll and I said I would do a top 20 or possibly a 25. Well, I've gone further. I'm going to do a top 30 because it actually was a very good year. I underestimated it. So as normal, I have 3 bubbling unders, and they are Morrison Hotel by The Doors, which I do like. I really do like the song Waiting for the Sun, but the 2 favourites are Ship of Fools and Land Ho, and I don't mind Roadhouse Blues, but as I said before, I struggle with The Doors, but it's a pretty good album. Other one is Matt Kelly's Greasy Spoon by Status Quo, which is the start of their boogie sound, but some of it is actually quite bluesy, like Spinning Wheel Blues. But there's a beautiful ballad in there called Everyday, and the best track is for me Shy Fly, although Junior's Wheeling's on it, which they played live quite a bit. And the third one is Derek and the Dominoes, Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs. And I do like parts of this album. I think it would have been a very, very good single album. And my highlights are Everyday, Keep On Growing, the title track, of course, the very country type I Looked Away, Little Wing, the cover of Jimi Hendrix song, and of course Bell Bottom Blues. The one track I do not like is Key to the Highway. So getting into my top 30, and my number 30 is Melanie and Candles in the Rain, and this is a pretty good album. It does have Lay Down on it, which is, I think, was actually a big hit in America. City as People is really good. A gorgeous version of Carolina on My Mind, which I think is a James Taylor song. The Good Guys is good. The big hit over here was Ruby Tuesday, the Stones song, and the New Seekers did a cover of What Have They Done to My Song Ma. Very good. Also Leftover Wine is a great track, and it was named as the title of her live album. So Candles in the Rain by Melanie gets my number 30. At number 29, and we have Led Zeppelin 3, and this is more their acoustic type album, although it does start off brilliantly with Immigrant Song. Friends is pretty good, as Celebration Day. You do get the big bluesy Since I've Been Loving You, which I don't mind it. I don't mind one of those on the album, but whenever you get more than one I get a bit annoyed. But Out on the Tides is a great wee rocker. Tangerine, Gallows Pole, Burn Your Stump are all sort of very folky, and I cannot stand Hats Off to Roy Harper. Awful song. So Led Zeppelin 3 gets my 29. At number 28, and it's the Bee Gees and Cucumber Castle, and this is the first album and only album not to feature Robin Gibb. He also released an album this year, Robin's Reign, which just failed to make it. I think this is slightly better. It starts off really well. If only I had my mind on something else, which is great. I.O.I.O. is a single, very, very catchy. Then You Left Me is a good song, but it's a bit sort of cringy whenever you hear him talking. The Lord is like a pastiche country number. I think there's a wee bit of a dig there, and Sweetheart's very good. My favourite track off this is the gospel-y Bury Me Down by the River, which I think is absolutely brilliant. But it's not a bad album at all. Cucumber Castle by the Bee Gees, Barry and Morris Gibb. At number 27, and it is Pink Floyd and Atom Heart Mother, and I do like this. I do like the title track, Atom Heart Mother. I think the first half of it is especially good, and there's some really good choral sections in that as well. It sort of goes a bit funny in the middle and then gets back in the end to be pretty good, but the side 2 I really do like off this. I love the song If, beautiful little ballad. Summer 68 is a good wee funky number. Fat Old Son's not bad at all. And Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast, this is another one which goes in and out, and I could do without the commentary on it, but it's still not a bad track. And this album got to number 1 in the UK charts. Something, Dark Side of the Moon, Animals and The Wall did not manage. So Atom Heart Mother is my number 27. At number 26, and we have Slade and Play It Loud, and this is their first album under the name Slade, but it's really their second. And this is more like their first album, Beginnings. It does have 4 songs that actually featured on Sladist, One Way Hotel, which is my favourite track off this. The Shape of Things to Come, a cover version. Know Who You Are, which is the same as Genesis but with lyrics. So Genesis was an instrumental, it's the same tune but as I say with lyrics. And Poke Hill, which is really really good as well. Dapple Rose is not a bad song either. It's about a horse that has past its use. Raven is a really good opener, and Sweetbox, Dirty Joker, they're all sort of good songs. No glam stomp in this yet, that happened in the next one, Slade, but still it's a pretty good album, and it gets my number 26. At number 25 I'm going to have Loaded by the Velvet Underground, and it starts off brilliantly with Who Loves the Sun, absolutely love that track, and then the two big ones, Sweet Jane and Rock and Roll, two excellent tracks. New Age is pretty good, Head Held High is good, Lonesome Cowboy Bill. This is actually slightly poppier. I think this was sort of written to try and be a hit album. Of course it did nothing at all. It's not my favourite of the Velvet Underground albums, but there's still enough on this, like Oh Sweet Nothing's a very good track. So it's probably the Velvet Underground at their poppiest, and it gets my number 25. And at number 24 we have The Move with Shazam. And this has only got 6 songs on it, the first side being all originals and the second side being covers, and I really like both sides. Side 1 starts with Hello Susie, which was a big hit for Amen Corner a year previous, so they recorded it first, but this version is so much heavier. And then you get Beautiful Daughter, which is a gorgeous song, very acoustic, almost McCartney-ish. And then the highlight for me is Cherry Blossom Clinic Revisited, where they take a track from their first album and they add bits, bobs and so forth. Now there is commentary in it, which I actually do like, and there's bits of I think it's Bach's Jésus, Joy of Man's Desiring in there as well. Now the cover versions are very good as well. Fields of People is extremely catchy with an Indian section at the end. Don't Make My Baby Blue, good song, and then a gorgeous version of Last Thing on My Mind, an extended version. This is a really good album and it gets my number 24. And number 23, and it's a bit of prog, and it's Genesis and Trespass. And I tend to group this album in with Nursery Crime and Foxtrot, and I think this is my favourite because I think 1, it's more melodic, and 2, it's a little bit folkier, with the opening song Looking for Someone, which I think is very folky. White Mountain I think is very good, as is Visions of Angels. Stagnation is regarded as one of the highlights of this, which I think is excellent as well, but I love the song Dusk because I think there's some really beautiful flute in there and some gorgeous backing vocals. And then you get the big proggy The Knife, which is regarded as the best of this. I do like this. This is the one without Phil Collins and Steve Hackett, and I can't remember the name of the drummer and the guitarist, but still Trespass gets my number 23. And number 22, and we have Cosmos Factory by Creedence Clearwater Revival, and this is possibly their best. It starts with Ramble Tamble, which I think is one of my favourite Creedence songs, and you get such big songs like Looking Out My Back Door. I always like Creedence doing the country stuff. Up Around the Bend is a fantastic riff on it. Who'll Stop the Rain is gorgeous as well. The Big Long, I Heard It Through the Grapevine, which sometimes I'm not in the mood for, but whenever I am I think it's brilliant. Travelling Band's really great as well, Run Through the Jungle, and then the really bluesy, but I do like this one, and it's Long As I Can See the Light. So Cosmos Factory is my number 22. And at number 21 we have Brinsley Schwarz and Despite It All, and this is almost like a country album. Country Girl is a beautiful, fun, catchy country tune, as is Starship, which sat beautifully on the Byrds' Sweetheart of the Rodeo. Ebery Down, gorgeous acoustic number. Funk Angel is really really groovy. Love Song is an excellent actual pop song, all written by Nick Lowe. I think this is probably Brinsley Schwarz's best, and it's their second album from 1970. The first one, the self-titled, just didn't manage to get in for me. So I got number 21. At number 20, and we have Van Morrison, his band and the Street Choir. Starts off with Domino, really good. Crazy Face is great. I've Been Working is a really good funky number. This is actually quite funky, this album. Call Me Up in Dreamland, really catchy. Virgo Clowns I absolutely love, very acoustic, gorgeous song. Street Choir is probably my favourite off this. This is the follow-up to Moondance, and although not quite as good, it's still a pretty good Van Morrison album, and it gets my number 20. And at number 19 we have A Question of Balance by the Moody Blues, and this features the brilliant Question written by Justin Hayward. Side 2 is much better than side 1, although side 1 does have highlights like Don't You Feel Small, the Graham Age track, which I like, and The Tide Rushes In, which was written by Ray Thomas. But side 2 starts off with It's Up to You, fantastic Justin Hayward song. And then my favourite track outside of the Question track is Minstrel Song by John Lodge, which I think is magnificent. Dawning of the Day is another great Hayward song, and Melancholy Man by Mike Pinder, brilliant as well. You know, I keep on rattling on about those 7 Moody Blues albums. They're all very good, and Question of Balance gets my number 19. Now number 18, you'll probably think this is far too low, and it's George Harrison and All Things Must Pass. Now if I did this video about 2 years ago, it wouldn't have got in the top 20 at all, maybe scraped the top 30. I do like this, but I do think it's too long and would have made a much better single album in my view. And Have You Any Time is not a bad track. My Sweet Lord I love, as I do What Was Life, 2 of his best ever songs. Wah Wah is a great rocker, although it goes on a little bit too long for me. If Not For You is a great version of the Bob Dylan song, and it was Olivia Newton-John that covered this version and had a big hit with it. Apple Scruffs is a really good song. I love the acoustic guitar on it, very catchy. And Waiting On You All, which I absolutely love. I do like his Hare Krishna type songs, but things like Beware of Darkness and the title track I am not that keen on, but still it's a pretty good album, and it gets my number 18. The highs on this are really high. And at number 17, and it's an artist I rarely show, and it's Neil Diamond, and it's Taproot Manuscript, and I think this is excellent. Side 1 is your normal songs, and side 2 is like African inspired music, which side 2 for me is brilliant, but we'll hit side 1 first. Crackling Rosie, excellent. Free Life, excellent as well. Cold Water Morning is a great track, and Done Too Soon is very good. He does a version of He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother, which he does it well, but I'm not that keen on the song. But side 2 starts off with Child's Song, which I think is brilliant. It's just children singing, and I Am the Lion is really good fun. Suleiman, which is one of his best ever songs, it's on every Greatest Hits, great track. Missa, African Sweet. African Sweet's just instrumental, but it's really good, and then it finishes with Child's Song Reprise, which is very nice. I think this is a really good album. I don't have much Neil Diamond of this, the jazz singer, and 1 Greatest Hits, that's all I have, but this is a very strong album. And at number 16 we have Carole King and Writer, and I think this is her debut album. And yeah, this is so good. This is the one just before Tapestry. Starts off with Spaceship Races, which is a pretty good wee rock song. And then No Easy Way Down is so laid back, it's really good. And then Child of Mine is absolutely gorgeous. And then Going Back, I love that song. I haven't heard a bad version of that. I love the Byrds version, I love the Pretenders version. I just think it's a great track. And To Love is probably my favourite off this. Eventually is another great track, but Raspberry Jam maybe goes on a little bit too long for me. A couple of slightly weaker ones with Can't You Be Real and I Can Hear You No More, but they're okay. But then it finishes with 2 crackers. Sweet Sweetheart, brilliant, and then a gorgeous version of Up on the Roof, which must be one of the top 50 songs ever written. I absolutely love it, and I love the Drifters version as well. This is a really strong album. It doesn't get talked about as much as, say, Tapestry, but I think it's actually up there with Tapestry. Really good album. So Writer gets my number 16. And number 15 and number 14 are the same artist, and number 15 is Tumbleweed Connection by Elton John. Opens up brilliantly with Ballad of a Well-Known Gun. Son of Your Father, Full of Horns, really good. My Father's Gone, so atmospheric, and the vocals in that are magnificent. especially the backing vocals. Where to Now St. Peter's really good. I love the cover version of Love Song, the Leslie Duncan track. Country Comfort really good, and Burn Down the Mission he plays all the time. Really strong album, very Americana, but I think just peaking it slightly is the one before it, and it's Elton John. And this is the one with Your Song, magnificent track, and Border Song is great as well. Take Me to the Pilot is a really good track as well. The Greatest Discovery is gorgeous, as is I Need You to Turn To. I like No Strings on Louise, very funky. The King Must Die, really good album, two excellent albums. This one is slightly more laid back, I think, than the Tumbleweed Connection, and it's a little bit rockier, and it gets my number 14. And number 13, and it is Don McLean and Tapestry, and this is the one before American Pie, and I think this is slightly better. This is the one with Castles in the Air, which is great. General Store I really like. It's just him picking away at an acoustic guitar and telling a story. Magdalene Lane, beautiful song, lovely little guitar runs in that, as there is with Respectable, which the words of those are actually quite scathing and they're very, very good. And I Love You So is the big one off this and was a big hit for Perry Como. Orphans of Wealth, brilliant track, as is Circus Song, and Tapestry itself is very good. I think this is slightly better than American Pie, and it gets my number 13. And at number 12 we have Cat Stevens and Tea for the Tillerman. Yeah, you may think this is a bit low, but yeah, I do really like it. Where Do the Children Play? Excellent track to start with. I love his voice and that, the way he dips his voice a lot at the end of each line or the end of the verse or whatever. Hard Headed Woman's great track. Wild World, really good, but a little bit overplayed for me. Longer Boats, I think is fantastic, although you wouldn't get away with the lyrics these days. Miles from Nowhere is a highlight on here, as is On the Road to Find Out. And of course Father and Son, which are heartbreaking lyrics. Really good album, and it gets my number 12. And at number 11 we have John Lennon and Plastic Ono Band. Now I like all of this album apart from one song, Well Well Well, I just can't abide it. Mother is really, really good. You have to be in the mood to hear that. Hold On, John, I think is brilliant, as is Look at Me. Absolutely love those songs. Those are the ones I could listen to any time of the day. God is probably one of his best ever solo songs. Remember's good, I Found Out's good. Working Class Hero is okay, but I think it's maybe a little bit tedious. And Love is a beautiful track as well. Isolation, really good song. This is one of John's best solo albums. I think it's probably his second best behind Mind Games, and it gets my number 11. At number 10, and we have Mungo Jerry and their debut album. And there's no hits off this, although the American equivalent had in the summertime. But this starts off with Baby Let's Play House, which is a rock and roll cover, and it doesn't really fit, but it's still alright. And a fantastic version of San Francisco Bay Blues. Sad Eyed Joe, really catchy. Maggie, love it. Absolutely love the kazoo in that. And we have See Me, which is very good as well. My Friend, one of the catchiest tracks they've ever actually done. Yeah, and Daddy's Brews, not bad. Trump's not bad. Peace in the Country. Now that one there is the second catchiest track they've ever done. I just love it. It's a foot stomping. There is electric guitar, washboard, kazoo, and it's all great fun. I think that's my number 10. And at number 9 we go back to Cat Stevens and Mona Bone Jackin, and I prefer this slightly to Tea for the Tillerman. Lady Darvinville, absolutely brilliant. Maybe You're Right, so smooth. Pop star, funky as hell with an acoustic guitar, and it is so good, and his voice goes everywhere. I think I See the Lights pretty good, and Trouble is a gorgeous little ballad. But you turn over to side 2 and you get things like Kathmandu, which has Peter Gabriel on flute, beautiful. Fill My Eyes is one of my favourite Cat Stevens songs of all time, and Lily White's one of the best closers of all time. I Wish is not bad at all, and the title track's pretty good. Slightly better than Tea for the Tillerman for me. I think maybe Tea for the Tillerman is slightly overplayed, but this gets my number 9. And number 8 we have the Beatles and Let It Be. Now what lets this down are the silly songs like Maggie May and Dig It. I just can't be bothered with them, and I've never been a fan of One After 909 or For You Blue, but whenever this is good, this is really good. McCartney owns this album. Two of Us, fantastic. Let It Be, fantastic. I've Got a Feeling, Long and Winding Road, Get Back, all brilliant songs. But I do like John's two songs on here as well. I really like Across the Universe, absolutely beautiful. And I do like Dig a Pony, which everybody seems to slate, but I think it's a really good track, I really do. But I think if Lennon had been more into this, it would have been a much better album. But still, it gets my number 8. And at number 7 we have Moondance by Van Morrison. Yeah, this is probably his most popular album, and it stoned me, absolutely fantastic. Crazy Love, brilliant. The title track I do like. Into the Mystic, absolutely fantastic track. I've seen a band play that live and it was just magnificent. Caravan, I think that was the one he played at the band's Last Waltz, I think. Come Running, These Dreams of You, really good. Brand New Day, Everyone, Glad Tidings, all very accessible Van Morrison songs, and I can understand why this is his most popular. It gets my number 7. At number 6, and we have T-Rex, and this is the first self-titled album, and it's the first under the name T-Rex. And yeah, this has got a lot of acoustic tracks on it, like The Visit, which is beautiful, The Time of Love Is Now, Seagull Woman, Sunny. But it does have other tracks that rock out a little bit more, like Beltane Walk could have been a single. Jewel, I think, is absolutely fantastic. Is It Love has got a good guitar lick to it, and he does a couple of versions of older songs. He updates One Inch Rock, which I think is pretty good, and then his very first single, The Wizard, he pulls that apart and turns it into like an 8-minute extravaganza, which I think is good. An excellent album. They call it the Brown Album, some people call it the Love Album, and it gets my number 6. At number 5 we have the Kinks and Lola versus the Powerman, and this has got two big hit singles off it, Lola and 8 Man. The Contenders is a really good opener, and then we have one of Dave Davis's best ever songs, For Strangers. The Money Go Round itself is a scathing reflection of the music industry, but I think it's great. Get Back in Line, absolutely brilliant song. Side 2 starts with This Time Tomorrow and going into A Long Way From Home, which I think is fantastic. Powerman is a really good rocker, and Gotta Be Free is almost a reprise of the Contenders. Excellent album, but yeah, this is during the period where the Kinks for me could do no wrong, between that 66 and 71 period, and this is from 1970 of course, and it's Lola versus Powerman and The Money Go Round. Now number 4 is actually Tyrannosaurus Rex, and it's A Beard of Stars, and this is the last one under the Tyrannosaurus Rex name. Starts off with a little instrumental prelude where he's trying to learn to play the electric guitar, and I think it's quaint. It's not very well played, but it is quaint. A Day Lay is beautiful. Fist Heart, Mighty Dawn Dart has got the electric guitars in it. I think it's great. Pavilions of Sun has always been one of my favourites. There's a lot of good bongos in it. By the Light of a Magical Moon was the single, did nothing, but still really good track. A Beard of Stars is an instrumental on side 2, which I think is great, with a lot of sort of backing vocals like ahs and oohs and all the rest of it. Great Horse, beautiful song, which Morrissey listed as one of his all-time favourites. Dragon's Ear, full of bongos, really good. Then you get Lofty Skies, which I think is magnificent. The last track is Elemental Child, which is a real rock out. A really strong album. I think the next one is more acoustic than this. I think they should have been nearly the other way around. This is more T-Rexy, I think, than the T-Rex album. So Beard of Stars gets my number 4. Now my number 3 was released, I think it was October or November 1970 in America, but it didn't come out till 1971 in the UK, and it was February. So I'm going to go with the American cover for this because it came out there. I know it's not an original, it's one of those what we call them Captain Pugwashes or Long John Silvers, and it's David Bowie, the man who sold the world. And this is a fantastic album. Width of a Circle, what a track. It's about 8 minutes long and it's brilliant. And then you get things like All the Madmen, absolutely magnificent. Black Country Rock's got a little bit of a T-Rex sound about it. And then After All is so haunting. It actually goes back a little bit to around the 1967 sound. After All, you turn over and you have Running Gun Blues, brilliant track. Savior Machine, really rocky. And the title track, one of the best songs he's ever written. The Superman, great, absolutely love it. Not my favourite, but I still love it. And She Shook Me Cold is almost like a Led Zeppelin type track. Really good album. And a lot of people think this is his entry, really. Some people even dismiss the Space Oddity album or the David Bowie album. But no, this is his third album. I love them all. And it's excellent. It gets my number 3. And my number 2, and it is McCartney, from Paul McCartney. Now, I will say that he's probably had albums with slightly better songs, for example Band on the Run, but this is my favourite McCartney album. I absolutely love it. It's the feeling of it, it's the warmth of it, it's absolutely brilliant. I even love the Lovely Linda. It's only about 30 seconds long, brilliant. That Would Be Something, absolutely magnificent track. Every Night, likewise a magnificent track. And I love Hot as Sun, really catchy. And Man We Was Lonely, it's got a little bit of a country feel, which I really do love as well. And then the side 2, you get things like Ooh You and Mama Miss America, which are more rocky, which are great. Teddy Boy, one of the weaker ones off this, believe it or not, and it was one that was demoed with the Beatles. And then Maybe I'm Amazed, fantastic. Junk and Sing Along Junk are brilliant as well. And I don't mind Kina Kurora, I could never say that right. But I love this. As I say, it's the warmth of the album, and I never skip any tracks in this. This has to be played straight through, and I never pick tracks out, always played through, and that's my number 2. And my number 1 is my second favourite album of all time. That's Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon Garfunkel. What can you say about this? The title track's immense, and Art Garfunkel's voice is immense. El Condor Pass is beautiful. Cecilia is great fun, as is Keep Customer Satisfied. And then you have So Long, Frank Lloyd Wright, which again, Art Garfunkel's vocals is beautiful, and that's the one people seem to forget about. The Boxer, magnificent. Baby Driver, again, another really great fun song. Brum, ba, 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 ba. And then we get one of Paul Simon's best ever tracks, and that is The Only Living Boy in New York. And the backing vocals are unbelievably good. Why Don't You Write Me is like a fun little reggae track. And then you have Bye Bye Love, which I do really like. And it was only really included because the hand claps that go through it go through the whole of the song, and it's excellent. And then finishes off with the beautiful Song for the Asking. You know, this is a 10 out of 10 album. This is an 11 out of 10 album. It's absolutely magnificent, and it gets my number 1 for 1970. Okay, so that's my rundown of my 30 favourite albums from 1970. I hope you enjoyed that. I will put another poll up to see which year is going to be next. I may put 3 80s years up because people tend to vote more for the 70s than any other decade. And so I'll have that up probably tomorrow, and then I'll have another video probably next week. Okay, that's me for now. Hope you enjoyed that. Bye bye.